And this, again, is this, we're just going to keep breaking it down so that we can understand the most important thing in life is understanding and accepting your current position. You can consume knowledge over here and go to Torah classes or go to college or go here or go there. You can keep the Sabbath holy, not eat pork, don't masturbate, do this, do that, do blah, blah, blah. You can do this, all these different things. But if you don't get the first part right, it's all irrelevant. The time in it, the knowledge consumed in your so-called experience and understanding is irrelevant because it was all from the wrong position. That's why God always brings us back to the beginning so that we get it right. When you look at relapse as a whole, he doesn't go, this is my favorite. This is the Baptist one. Oh, it was just a slip up, Johnny. It's just a slip up. Here you go. You get to keep this, you get to keep this, you get to keep this, keep this, and you're going to do better this time. I just know it. That's not the way it works. We know that. It's you don't get this, you don't get this, you don't get this. Oh, and by the way, you got to go do this. And every time it's something else that's back here so that you can get back to where you started from, which is farther away. So whether it's a cone, we were talking about the cone yesterday, a bullseye, whatever it is, if you want to understand God's plan for your life, get in the first position and define it before you write anything out here. Because that's the most important. And until you get that, He's going to take care of all this anyway. So don't get outside of where He's called you to be. Because He's just waiting to promote you. He's just waiting to give you a raise. He's just waiting for you to get into position. So that He can teach you and mold you and shape you and put you there. Sometimes it happens right away. Sometimes it doesn't happen for a long time. Sometimes you go an extended period of time in your life and you don't realize the raise in which you've got because your perspective's wrong. Because it's based on a position that wasn't according to the principles in which He's written into my heart or your heart, and then you go, oh, that was all blessing. And I thought it was a curse. Sure, it felt like a curse, just felt like a curse when I got that phone call. But honestly, it was all blessing. And the truth is that God will do for you what you can't do for yourself. So, part of our basics, first it's God. It's that willingness to position yourself in the mirror, look into your heart, and admit where you're at and who you are. And then see what He's calling you to do to move forward, to be better, accepting it, admitting it to someone else so that you can be held accountable to it, and then you start taking action and not doing or whatever it is to be better. And then when called upon, Give your testimony. But part of the whole standing in front of the mirror deal, sometimes we're in control of it, sometimes we're not. But what does God say at the, at the end of the, I don't know it's at the end, but part of the prayer that's said in so many rooms throughout this country, but they leave that off. Celebrate Recovery, they say the whole thing. That part that's so important. If your brother has something against you, go and reconcile with them. See, we don't like that mirror for reflection, because that takes work, and that takes humility, and that takes transparency. And so, oftentimes, you're not in position to do those things, but there's still stuff that you could get yourself ready for it if it ever happens, or do what you can based on the tools that God has given you. So like, we're talking about 4-step and different things, amends, and if the people are no longer with us, you can write letters, you can do all sorts of different things that frees you. It shows obedience and faith, where you can get that off of you and then give it to God. But you don't get the freedom until you act out in obedience. Well, I'm just going to use this as an example. The person who called me tonight right before this meeting, man, I would do anything in the last 5 to 8 years to stay away from these people. You know why? Because it forces me because when I stay away from them, I don't have to deal with the pain that I felt with these relationships, these godly Christian relationships that I was involved in. But the reality is that it only has as much control as I give it. And it's my job to position myself to make amends and move forward from my side of the road. Just the simple fact of avoidance to someone based on you don't feel good communicating with them puts you in a position disconnected from God, not cleaning your side of the street. And they could be the ones who did everything. But you avoiding God reconciling, restoration, is out of order. And so if that's part of that, what He's given you today, you better be obedient. Otherwise, He will put you in a position where you're not real comfortable. And you're not prepared. You don't get to live proactively. Luckily, I knew this day was coming. And it still has just as much sting, but I know on the other side of it is complete freedom. You know what I mean? So that's where we're at. When we get transparent, we fear transparency. We fear getting up to that line and making that change and being willing. But soon as we get there, and truthfully, before you get to the other side of it, it's complete freedom from it. So that you're not 10 years down the line jacked up from some stupid thing that was irrelevant to your relationship with God or your ability to be who God has called you to be. Because we're worried about our worth, or we're worried about what people think about us, or we're worried about what we think is right based on our current consumption of knowledge. There's no freedom in that. Matter of fact, it just adds more, like you said. And we're jacked up again. We were wondering why we feel this way. We're doing all these right things. We're doing this. We're doing this. We're doing this. We're doing this. But we're not standing in front of the mirror. Giving Him everything. We're doing it the way we want to do it. The way it makes us feel comfortable. In our time. And that ain't how God operates. All I know is I do not want to get into another position where I had gone so long blocked in recovery, in God, doing all these things. But because I wasn't starting in the right position, it just kept going. I would rather go nowhere and never get a raise. Matter of fact, I haven't gotten a raise in I don't know how long, bro. But I would rather never get a raise or go anywhere if I didn't or wasn't maximizing what He had currently given me, because I know that pain. And none of it is worth it. None of it. Because His provision is enough. And I've been blessed to experience that through very difficult situations. They're unexplainable. The provision is unexplainable. It is explainable to those of us who know God and have experienced that provision. But to the world, it's unexplainable. And so I could sit down every day and try and figure out how I'm going to move to the next level, or I could just accept the provision that He's given me and maximize it to the best of my ability based on my testimony and see what He's got for me tomorrow. And know that whatever He gives me is going to be enough. And it doesn't have anything to do with my work. It has a lot to do with my obedience and my faith. I don't know if you follow me on that you're hearing me. It's the difference between good and God's best. It's freedom and no freedom. Because over here, you're responsible. When it's your plan, when you're the boss, when you're God, you're responsible. That's a crushing feeling. Because I'm trying to know everything. I'm trying to spin all the plates. I'm trying to manipulate and do this. And it's always be closing. And it's always because it's about me. But over here, I'm not responsible. So I just get to show up. What's up? Showing up. Do my job. To the best of my ability. which is not very good some days. Probably most days. Based on the tools in which He's given me in my current position. So I continue to try and learn how to maximize those. But always focused on Him. And one day you'll turn around and go, how did I get here? It's the most incredible view. Who would have thought? Let's just sit here and enjoy it. If you get quiet and the first thing that your brain goes to is some sort of control or stress or weight or depression or anger or fear, then you are not in the right position. I don't care what book you're reading, what rabbi is yours, where you go to church. I don't care. You're not in the right position. Because you ought to be able to just sit there and enjoy the view. Because His provision is enough. And it always is. It's always enough and then some. That's the blessing for the future. And as hard as what Eric's getting ready to go through and is going through right now, God's already given him everything he needs to get through it. And that's why he's going to be a pillar and allow God to use him in an incredible way through this. That will ultimately, I believe, bring people into the position in which they need to get to see God in their own lives. It takes painful things to force us to change a lot. Because we won't pay attention to it. And Eric, he's been... Man, that poor guy, he's like the Indian or something in the canyon with the cowboys shooting. He can't even, everywhere he went, he's getting attacked for the last year in his life. And he doesn't even know what God's doing. Because we're like, this hurts, this is uncomfortable, this is nah. And over here, God is going to do an amazing thing through a terrible thing. Just like he did with his son. Just like he's done already in all of your lives. I used to tell Jake back in the day when we first started, dude, we can just shut this thing down today. And it would be enough. Because there was a time that it was just Jake living here. This is, after he had a certain amount of recovery, and then he was the guy. And I'd come in here and we'd talk and whatever, and I'm like, we're not just going to let anyone in here. Because we know what it's going to turn into if we do. So it would be about filling beds and paying bills, and it's not our responsibility. But maybe we should close this thing down. And honestly, knowing that it position Jake in a place for his whole life to change was enough for me. To know that God used my pain from 15 years ago and connected it all through this for him was enough. Christ in the flesh. The Word. Restoration. The Torah. His teaching and instruction. Wham! Undeniable. Dead, alive. Shut the doors, drop the mic, we're out of here. But we just kept showing up. And that's what this life's about, is getting in that position so that you are reliant on His provision. And you will be amazed before you're halfway through. All these things that you lost will be given back to you. You will not have fear of economic insecurity. All of these things. So am I positioning myself so that these promises can come true? Or am I playing God, getting in the way, doing something that I was not created for? Unclutter your brains. Unclutter your life. Less is more. I'm done. That's all I got. It's stereo. Stereo. These things on? Comments, questions? Participations? All from that. You being obedient. And what's crazy, what keeps blowing my mind, and it's all about everything that I'm talking about. And we didn't have to open up any books, and we didn't have to do anything. We just had to be authentic. Position ourselves for whatever the provision is. And there's no secret about it. Because it's undeniable. One of these days I'll get all this stuff written down and organized. And until then I'll just keep showing up.
Works.
It's kind of the weird, awkward stage where it's like everyone's got that buzz that it's like, is he looking at me weird? Am I looking weird? Wait a minute, what's going on right now? Where am I?
There's usually some discussion after, like, who's looking at me? No, dude, you're staring at me the whole time.
Yeah, I've learned that your days, I just gotta stare into it.
I mean,
Stare into it.
it's like getting on the boat, on the vessel.
It's like getting on the ship, man.
You just have to bask.
So you just let it embrace you.
You just gotta let that wind hit
Oh, man, that you went there quick.
Well, he was there last night for a while.
You got that melody fast.
Yeah, right on the top too. It was just bad timing.
This is my soft boy over here. He's
Probably turn the camera off now.
actually, we're gonna take it with us. But yeah, you can turn it off.
Big silver button.